Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Joe Citizen Show, and I'm Roger Homefield. We have no introduction music today or smiles because today's event is just not appropriate. Now, today's event was not a tragedy. It was an act of war. And today's attack was not by a truck. It was by a jihadist. Today's attack is not about a lack of security barriers and our security, but about our total ignorance regarding worldwide jihad. This is war on our culture. This is a war on Western civilization, and we are the infidels. Obama, Biden, and the media have been covering up for jihad for years, making believe it just no longer existed. And this has to stop. Remember Major Nadal Hassan, who massacred his fellow soldiers, but Obama called it, quote, workplace violence? And then we had Benghazi, where Obama went through all kinds of contortions to blame it on the video, which was complete bullshit, rather than admit that it was a terror attack and on 9/11 nonetheless. Now, to my surprise, the FBI this morning actually admitted it was a terror attack in relatively short time and released the jihadist name. Although I highly suspect some of that had to do with the fact that the mayor had already said it was a terror attack. Now, today, the jihadists wanted us to close down the Sugar Bowl, just like they closed the rest of the German Christmas markets after they drove through one of them, killing dozens. They did the same thing in France a couple of weeks earlier, and the same thing happened here in America several years ago, which we've already forgotten about. But we are incrementally accepting this new normal, and I, for one, will not accept this as a new normal. Now, let's take this from the top, because evidently we have not learned any of this for the last 20 years from our FBI, politicians, teachers, or media who are either ignorant imbeciles, infiltrated plants, bought and paid for, cowards, or all of the above. They never told you so, so I will. There are many who did try to warn you, like David Gobbets, Brigitte Gabriel, Pamela Geller, Daniel Pipes, Joe Kaufman, Frank Gaffney, Steve Emerson, Waleed Shobat, Al Rassouli, Reverend O'Neill Dozier, Joyce Kaufman, and many, many more. But the smug liberal media tuned them out and labeled us all Islamophobes. So here it is. Jihad did not begin or end on 9/11. The purpose of jihad is to spread Sharia law by the sword or the pen. The 9/11 terrorists were neither poor, crazy, or ignorant. They did not pervert Islam. They, in fact, followed Islam, and they did their jobs as jihadists. And Islam has made zero changes to the dynamics that caused 9/11. The media always covers up for jihadists by calling them lone wolves, which is ridiculous, considering the Jihad Club is many, many millions strong. Now, whether today's jihadists who drove the truck in this event acted alone or not is completely irrelevant. It turns out that now we know he didn't act alone. But it has nothing to do with anything. Regardless, we can have 1,000 more who do act alone and do the same thing. So then what? Does that make it all right? Now, I have no children or grandchildren, but if you do, you need to start speaking out and demanding your politicians get off their asses, unless you want your loved ones to become infidel subjects under Muslim law. And this is no fantasy. The pundits on the news, even the conservative news, are still saying all the wrong things, talking about lone wolves and copycats and how he became radicalized. He didn't become radicalized. He didn't become radicalized. He is Sharia compliant and he's a jihadist. There's no such thing as radical Islam or moderate Islam, just Islam. And you can't be a lone wolf if you're part of tens of millions. Did the Japanese think the Enola Gay was a lone wolf when it dropped the bomb on Hiroshima? It was just one plane. We can never win the war on terrorism by fighting a defensive war. We can never win fighting a defensive war unless we want barriers around everything and go into lockdowns, huddle in the corner and suck our thumbs in a fetal position. And that wouldn't stop terrorism anyway. We cannot allow them to make us surrender our culture and make us a society in constant lockdown and fear. Now, after 9/11, George Bush held hands with the imams and told us we had nothing to fear from Islam, and that was a flat lie. Cultural jihadist, who's the Attorney General of Minnesota, he led the Democrats in trashing the Peter King hearings in 2010, which was to investigate jihad in America. And Obama, Biden, they placed, quote, devout Muslims into important positions at, quote, every level of government. And any devout Muslim is surely a Sharia-compliant Muslim. The FBI, the CIA, and Homeland Security no doubt have been infiltrated by Sharia-compliant Muslims, and these agencies have turned their back on the entire situation for the past 20 years. Gee, I wonder why. They even stopped experts from educating law enforcement because they were no longer permitted to use the words Islamic terrorism. Let that sink in. So today's blood is on all their hands. So instead of worrying about barricades, instead of the FBI and CIA spying on Donald Trump's campaign or Catholics or parents at PTA meetings, maybe they should be keeping tabs on what's being said at mosques. Uncover the motive? It's jihad, stupid. Just several weeks ago at the Kansas City Islamic Center, they were praying for the deaths of all pro-Zionists and asking Allah to let them take it into their own hands. Well, many of your Jewish friends are pro-Zionists, but the Kansas City Homeland Security Department didn't seem to want to know anything about it, refusing emails from the Florida Family Association. So don't talk to me about see something, say something, because you don't ever seem to do a damn thing about it. They want to see what the terrorist was posting online. Why don't they see what his mosque is saying on Fridays? Now, I'm not a hawk. In fact, as a guest on Muslim radio in 2004, I told them that if they wanted to join America and be part of the American dream, that they are welcome here with open arms. I further went on to say that if they would help the FBI root out terrorists, they would be heroes in America. Heroes. But that if they came here with the preconception of hating Christians and Jews, and they came here to change us and change our society, that would be invasion, not immigration, and they should pack their Sharia and get out. We cannot win a defensive war against terrorism. We must throw out every single foreign jihadist that we find in this country and indict every jihadist that's a United States citizen and indict them for treason. Biden's talking about determining if there is no other possible threat. What is he talking about? That is so absurd because I don't remember Islam canceling their caliphate and jihad. Jihad never stops unless it is stopped. And because the entire Western civilization cannot bring itself to go against a, quote, religion, we allow them to destroy our cultures, such as is happening right now in Europe, and we are following right in their footsteps. Now, here is our way out of this mess. Islam is not a religion. It is, in fact, in their own words, a political, economic, and military ideology which only uses religion as a tool to achieve its ultimate goal of a one-world country under Sharia law. That's the caliphate. If Sharia was a ladder, its top rung is jihad, and its lowest bottom rung is religion. Of course, not all Muslims adhere to Sharia law. But as Brigitte Gabriel explained to me on my own Joe Citizen radio show in 2010, it's the radicals who run the show, and those who stay silent are irrelevant, as was the case in Nazi Germany. Now, since 9/11, the number of mosques and the Muslim population has exploded in America. Jihad has greatly accelerated, only this time in a different form, called cultural jihad. Of course, today's attack was not cultural jihad. But in cultural jihad, it advances Sharia through lawfare, intimidation, and infiltration into every single facet of American life: school, curriculum, media, law enforcement, politics, etc. And the media completely ignores cultural jihad. Of course, they hardly had to infiltrate, because Obama and Biden gleefully bragged how they were installing devout Muslims into positions of power at every level of government. But any devout Muslim is surely Sharia compliant. And again, incredibly, Obama and Biden deleted the words Islamic terrorism from all law enforcement manuals. For the past 24 years, the Islamists have taken advantage of America's good-heartedness and run down the field with it unopposed, lest you be called an Islamophobe. Recently in New Jersey, there was a grade school quiz, and one of the answers on the quiz happened to be the terror group ISIS. That was the answer on one of the questions. Well, a cultural jihadist group of teachers called Muslim Wild Teaching, they intimidated the school board supervisor, who, instead of telling them to pound sand, apologized profusely and said he would punish whoever wrote the question. Think about that. If we allow this to continue, American culture and freedom will be lost, the same as it is happening right now in Europe. If you don't know about it, it's simply because the Islamization of Europe is completely blacked out, and the totalitarian English government under Starmer is arresting people who post videos to show the rest of the world what's happening, and he brands his own people as the far right for trying to save their culture. Here's the punchline, folks, and this is what it's really all about. Sharia law is not coexistent with the United States Constitution or any other government. It seeks to replace it. Now, we must give President Trump all of the political capital he will need for this war. The only way to save America is to outlaw Sharia law in the United States and take away their tax-exempt status. This would lead to the closing of mosques and madrasas, which are Sharia compliant. Why should the Council of American Islamic Relations, or CARE, who condone the putting of babies into ovens, be tax exempt in this country? The Muslim Brotherhood is a self-avowed enemy of the United States, whose goal is a one-world country under Sharia law. And their playbook is called the Grand Jihad. The Grand Jihad, their playbook is to overthrow the United States by destroying our culture from within. There's the 5 phases. We have just entered into phase 5. Now, will America, unlike Europe, develop the political will to support President Trump on this? Or will we have to see more jihadists driving into Christmas parades and New Year's celebrations until we simply stop having them? This is the Joe Citizen Show. I'm Roger Homefield. Roger, over and out.
They'll never stop spreading Sharia. The most dangerous sound I've ever heard. Sharia.